Memorize this formula, but you do have to know how to use it, and this is the formula. F of x plus h, f of x plus h minus f of x divided by h. And then the formula goes on to say you can use this formula as long as h does not equal 0, because what happens if h is equal to 0? That little formula is undefined. So this formula would not work if h is equal to 0. So now I'm just going to tell you a little story about slope. You don't have to write anything down, but I just need you to listen. And I know that you know this because on your first project you did a video and you did really, really good about talking about positive slope and negative slope. Y'all described it in all kinds of different ways and you were all correct. So let's talk about this line. Okay, you don't have to write this down. I'm just trying to explain where this formula is coming from. So does this line have a positive or a negative slope? Positive. As a positive slope. Lines have slope that is consistent everywhere on the line. So if I pick these 2 points and I find the slope, will it not be the same slope as if I pick these 2 points? So that's why a line has consistent slope. There are other graphs that do not have consistent slope. I'll use a parabola as an example. Does a parabola have the same exact slope at every 2 points on the graph? No, it doesn't. So if I picked these 2 points and did slope between those 2 points, that slope would be negative, right? Wouldn't that be a negative slope? Wouldn't you be going downhill if you drew a line between those 2 points? If I pick 2 points over here, then the slope would be positive. So some graphs do not have the same slope at every 2 points that you pick. So what this formula does, it's actually a calculus formula, and you'll use it later on. It's just in this section because it has to do with functions, and this is a function section. So what this slope does is what this equation does is it actually finds slope at 2 specific points. We're not actually going to have to find the slope. You're just going to have to learn how to use the formula. It'll be something that you do once you get to calculus. So let's look at number 58. They're going to give you a function, and you're going to take this function and you're going to follow the formula. So the function for number 58 is 6x plus 1. So you may know what the graph of f of x equals 6x plus 1 would look like. I hope everybody knows that's the same as y equals 6x plus 1. So would that not be a line? That would be a line. Okay, f of x is the same thing as a y. So we should have consistent slope here. When we do this formula, we're actually going to come up with the slope of this line. Not every equation is going to be linear. I just wanted to show you one just to prove that we were actually finding the slope. Okay, so we're going to follow the formula. This is very confusing, so please watch what I do. The first part of the formula says wherever I see an x, I'm going to plug in x plus h. So into 6x plus h, wherever I see an x, I'm going to plug in x plus h. So it looks like this. But remember, then the function says plus 1. So f of x plus h means your input is x plus h. Wherever you see an x, you're going to plug in x plus h. Then the formula says minus f of x. So that means minus your function. You need to put that function in parentheses, and our function is equal to 6x plus 1. Then the formula says divide everything by h. Now, let me try to show you what I'm doing here. I'm going to box it up for you. The first part that I'm going to box up is the f of x plus h part. This is f of x plus h minus f of x divided by h. F of x plus h minus f of x divided by h. All right, let's simplify. In the top, what can I do to simplify? Distribute the 6. So I get 6x plus 6h plus 1. Then I have to remember if I'm subtracting a parentheses, I need to multiply everything by negative 1. So I get negative 6x minus 1. all over h. If you've done this part correctly, everything that doesn't have an h will cancel. Everything that doesn't have an h will cancel if you've done your first part of the formula correctly. So 6x and negative 6x cancel, 1 and negative 1 cancel, and you're left with 6h divided by h, which simplifies all the way out to 6. And 6 was the slope because we agreed that this was a linear equation and it's in y equals mx plus b form. So we did come up with the slope of this linear equation. Most of these functions are not going to be linear, so you're not going to get just a number out. You're going to get x's and h's out once you do the formula. This one's just an easy one. All right, let's do a harder one. Let's look at 68. Same formula, harder equation. 68. H of x, actually it's f of x. F of x is equal to negative 3x squared plus 2x minus 1. So I picked a really, really easy one and I picked a harder one. So the formula says f of x plus h. So wherever we see an x, we're going to put in x plus h. Wherever we see an x, we're going to input or substitute in x plus h. I'm going to ignore it. Okay? So that's the f of x plus h part. Then the formula says subtract f of x. So you put a subtraction sign. And then you put your function, which is your f of x, which is negative 3x squared plus 2x minus 1. You'll put that in parentheses. So that's the minus f of x part. And then all of this is divided by h. Again, I want to show you with some little boxes. This is the f of x plus h part minus the f of x all over h. Now we've got to do algebra in the top to get everything simplified. So in the top I've got to take x plus h and I've got to square it. So I'm going to use my shortcut for a binomial squared, which is what? Square double square. And I'm going to get x squared plus 2xh plus h squared. If you don't know how to square double square, you need to come to me and I need to remind you how to do that. You can go ahead and distribute the 2. Then what am I going to do next? No, we got to keep going, guys. Distribute the negative 1. So that's going to give us a positive 3x squared minus 2x plus 1. We're not going to factor it all in this one. And we can't combine like terms yet because I still have that negative 3. So I've got to multiply everything in that parentheses by negative 3. So I'll get negative 3x squared minus 6xh minus 3h squared, and then everything else you can just bring down. You okay? You need to go get something to drink? Sure. Okay. When you get to this step, everything that doesn't have an h should cancel. If it doesn't, then you have done something wrong. Okay? When you get to this step, everything that doesn't have an h will cancel. So negative 3x squared does not have an h. So does it have a positive 3x squared somewhere that it cancels with? Yes. Yes. The next term is negative 6xh. It has an h in it, so it should not cancel. The next term, negative 3h squared, has an h in it, so it will not cancel. The next one is plus 2x. It doesn't have an h. So is there something that cancels with plus 2x? Okay. Plus 2h will stay. Then you have a minus 1 and a plus 1. Those don't have h's in them. Those will cancel. If you've done this formula correctly, everything that doesn't have an h will cancel. So now we're left with negative 6xh minus 3h squared plus 2h Is that all that's left on the top? Yes, and all of that is divided by h, and then we're almost finished. So negative 6x divided by h is negative 6x. Negative 3h squared divided by h is negative 3h. 2h divided by h is plus 2. So this is actually your slope, which will change depending on the 2 points that you use. X and h are the values of the 2 points. This is a calculus thing. All we're doing right now is we're learning how to use the formula. We're not actually ever going to find slope in this class, but you will later on when you get to calculus. Questions about the formula? You do not have to have it memorized, but you do have to know how to use it. Okay, I did an easy one and I did a really hard one. So there's some in between, but here's you an example of one of both. All right, we have three more problems and they're going to go pretty quick. I'm going to take a picture of the next graph so we can actually look at it. Anybody still copying 68? Okay. You do. I'm sorry you don't get to pick the topics that we study in math class. Can you go back to adding and subtracting? Only if you go back to elementary school. You want to go back to elementary school? You want to go back to kindergarten and take a nap? Okay. Nah, I'm going to move on. You good? Okay, so let me take a picture real quick of this graph. We're going to do 84 and 86. Okay. Shh. So we are doing number 84 together. And number 84, this is really, really, really easy, I promise. It says state the intervals. This is something that we've already done. This is just a word problem in a graph where they actually apply the math. State the interval on which the graph giving the percent body fat in men is increasing, and then give the interval where the body fat is decreasing. So because they're saying men, I'm not going to look at the top graph at all. I'm looking at the bottom graph only. And it says, where is the percent of body fat increasing? Where is it increasing? And I helped y'all out yesterday by doing some highlighting. So we're looking at this one. And so everywhere where I have highlighted, the percent of body fat is increasing. So what interval would that be on? 25 to 65. All right, this is where we don't ever use brackets. This is when we're talking about where something increases, decreases, or is constant. Now, where does it decrease? Same graph. It decreases from 65 to 75. That's all you're doing. There'll be some little word problems. There'll be some graphs that you'll look at. 86 deals with the same graph. And 86 says, at what age does the percent body fat in men reach a maximum? Okay, y'all agree with that? Man, what? Y'all didn't have any trouble with that. I've been trying to tell y'all, look left and right when they're asking y'all for the max. But that made sense because it was attached to some content, did it not? Okay, so it says, at what age does the percent body fat in men reach a max? You said 65. And then it says, what is the percent body fat for that age? 26%. And that was a Y value. Man, y'all did great on that. All right, one more, and I'm going to change graphs. Everybody got 84 and 86 written down? Everybody have 84 and 86 written down? I'll take that as a yes. Where are you at? All right, last example. So this is a graph where on the x-axis, if you'll look, they're measuring what on the x-axis? Weight. And this is like if you're going to mail something, they'll weigh it and tell you how much the postage is. And then on the y-axis, they're measuring cost in dollars. So we are doing number 96. And number 96 says, find f of 3.5. Find f of 3.5. So is 3.5 an x value or is it a y value? It's an x value. So you're going to go over in your graph till you get to 3.5, which will be about right here, right? And then you're going to go up. And so you're going to answer that question. What is f of 3.5? All right, and that's money, right? And then it's going to ask you, what does that mean? What does f of 3.5 equal 93 cents mean? Okay, and you're going to write something like, if your letter weighs 3.5 what? Ounces, you will pay 93 cents to mail it. Or the postage is 93 cents. Doesn't matter exactly how you say that as long as you have that meaning. If your letter weighs 3.5 ounces, you will pay 93 cents to mail it.